Hi, everybody. I'm Laura,
And I'm Allison.
and this is the Earp Top 5 podcast for freedom.
Freedom! Today, we're going to be talking about episode 412, Old Souls. And again, this was written by the one and only Emily Andress, and it is our season 4 finale. Deep breaths, everybody.
Yeah. It was an episode for the ages, I will say. I'm at a loss for words. I can say that.
I also want to prepare everyone as we go through our top 5 moments that this is going to be a lot like Laura and I trying to
process.
Well, we're processing, but also it's like us trying to dig through a pile of clothes, trying to find something we knew about 5 years ago, because none of it makes sense. Like we're going through these moments and like it's going to be out of order, all crazy, because there's so much in this episode. Laura had a list of 16 at one point.
I did.
That I made her trim to 6. This is a top 5 podcast, but with this episode, I just don't know how you pick 5 moments.
Okay, so I don't know if you know this, but when Roger Maris broke Babe Ruth's record for most home runs, they put an asterisk against his 61 home run number because I think the season was longer or there was some it wasn't equal. So let's just put an asterisk on the top 5.
This episode is not equal. This will not have 5. This will have way more, but that's okay.
5
there's
asterisk.
There's a lot to process here. So I will start us off with something lighthearted. I don't want to dive too deep right away. I'm going to talk about the boops and callbacks throughout the episode that I really loved. We've been on this journey for like 5 years, and there's been 4 wonderful seasons, one that we fought entirely for. And in this episode, it just felt like everything we could have ever asked for was just thrown in there. Even something as simple as us saying, Emily Andress, why don't you do a cameo? I mean, people have been bugging her for years to like pop on screen, and her reaction is always, no, I'm not an actress. You're a great voiceover actress, Emily Andress, because if you guys didn't notice, when Jeremy gets that call from BBD, it's none other than Emily Andress on the other end of the phone. Yeah. And the boop for that was like the ultimate boop to hear Emily's voice on the other end of that. I loved it.
Lovely. It was the best Easter egg a week after Easter.
Exactly. Another great boop that I love.
Oh, can I just mention that real quick or ask you about that? So did you hear it immediately and know it was Emily?
At first I thought I was crazy because I was like, I'm here. That's not her. Like, I was like, that's not her, because the people I was with were like, what? And I was like, did you not hear it? Like, it's definitely her. And then I looked on Twitter and like saw everyone else saying the same. So I was like, okay, well, clearly I'm not crazy. I didn't hear that.
I first thought it was my girl Naomi Haicha that they were able to get back for a voiceover.
That would have been for you.
I know. I thought it was like Emily's little nod to me, but I guess not. No, but then when Jeremy said that he couldn't do Monday, he had a date, then the speaker on the other end was like, well, congratulations, see you Tuesday. I was like, wait a second, that's Emily.
Yeah. Like certain words that Emily says, they just have like a certain inflection. And I just picked up on it immediately, which I love. It was the best decision. I don't know who convinced her to do that or if she decided on her own, but I loved it. And it was a perfect idea to finally get a little bit of Emily Andress in this show.
Yeah.
Except all over the pages, which she's,
Yeah. Thank you very much, Emily. I know you're listening because this is your favorite podcast. So
yeah, I mean, you told us last week. So
yeah.
The other boop that I really love is Charlotte Sullivan as a guest star. And for those of you that don't know, Charlotte Sullivan is a very popular and very loved Canadian actress. She's played on a lot of Canadian TV shows. I personally know her as Gail Peck from Rookie Blue. Great character, great Canadian TV show.
That's like the 4th Rookie Blue actor to be on this show.
Yeah, quite a few.
3rd or 4th.
Yeah. Great show. And Canada has 16 actors.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you get them all. But I believe there is a video from 2017 Dragon Con where someone asked Melanie Scrifano if you could have any guest star on this show, what would it be? This was in 2017. We were in season 2 at this point. And she said Charlotte Sullivan. And of course, everyone else who's a fan of Canadian TV was like, oh my gosh, yes, that would be amazing. One person who was really on board with this edition of Charlotte Sullivan would be Bridget from TV Junkies. If you guys don't know Bridget, please go introduce yourself to Bridget. And I'd like to acknowledge the boop that the character of Charlotte Sullivan was named Brigitte.
Yes.
As a nod to our very own Bridget. And my heart swelled 3 sizes when I heard that. And I immediately wanted to go to Twitter and look at Bridget's reaction because I was like, she's got to be losing her mind right now.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's just like how Anna Silk was named Kevin because Kevin Batchelder found the show because he was a Lost Girl fan. And so it's kind of the same thing. I'm a fan of Charlotte Sullivan. She's been on TV like all week. She was on the show Coroner, who that Noelle Carbone is the executive producer of. She's going to be on the new Chris Maloney Law and Order show this week. She's just, if you turn on any channel and you'll probably find Charlotte Sullivan on something.
Yeah. The other 2 things that I wanted to mention as a boop were Rachel singing the song at the wedding. Martina's a great singer, so when they said that, when she stood up and was about to sing, I was like, oh, this is great, I can't wait to hear her sing. And then she started singing this song and I was like, oh my gosh, what an amazing callback. And I don't know if anyone caught this, I hope you did, because it was an amazing moment. The song was Wildwood, which was played during the first kiss between Waverly and Nicole back in season 1, episode 9. The infamous Nedley's Office, that song is in the background and Rachel sings an amazing cover rendition of it, and it's just beautiful. And the montage that happened during that song, Laura, I don't know if you were caught up in that, but it was just such a light moment, and it was everybody was happy and smiling and dancing, and I was like, what a perfect little moment,
I love a good montage.
Me
and
too.
Actually that song, yes, actually all the music for the wedding and in the episode, Andrea Higgins knocked it out of the park with really all the music.
As she always does. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really nice to hear Martina's rendition of that. I'm not a fan of people doing covers of songs that mean stuff to me, but I give Martina all the permission to do any Wynonna Earp song in the future, and she's the only one that has permission to do that.
Yeah, because her voice is just it's just like butter. It's
yeah,
I don't
really
that's
is.
A really weird comparison, but it's just I don't know how else to describe just the smoothness and the quality of her voice. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And I highly recommend, or we highly recommend, getting the either iTunes or Google Play season pass where the behind the scenes is, because the cast and Martina especially talks about singing that. And there's a bunch more of the behind the scenes of that montage, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And then the last little boop I just wanted to mention were the names on the chairs at the wedding. And of course, this was mainly due to COVID. They couldn't have a whole lot of people in the scene with them. But I felt like this was a great way to acknowledge the other people that have been on the show, the people we've lost. We saw names like Mercedes, Chrissy, Robin. Even though Robin's alive, he's had trauma. He lost his memories, so he couldn't be there. Mercedes is out vampiring, she couldn't be there. Chrissy had left the triangle, and
she's out vampiring.
Yeah. And Mama Earp is out.
Fun fact, according to Wynonna, Mama's banging her way through Turkey. The postcards have gotten pretty graphic.
So Mama couldn't be there.
Mama's out living her best life. She's got out of jail. She's living her best life out there.
And then Dolls, of course, his name on the chair was very impactful. I thought that was a great moment to just see his name there, because if he were alive, no doubt he'd be standing there with them.
Yeah, he was the original Way Hot shipper.
Exactly. He was the first one who knew.
I had seen this ahead of time on the Twitters, where somebody was like they should have an acknowledgement to dolls at the wedding, and the chair I think was perfect.
Yeah, I
And
loved
the
it.
chair for really everybody was really
It
nice
was
and
a
really.
sweet way to give a nod to all the characters who have been a part of the show because, it's possible that if COVID didn't exist and there weren't these specific protocols that they would have had a larger wedding, who
Mhm.
knows? But it was nice to just have this simple nod to everyone that's kind of been there. And then there was a couple other things just real quick. Wynonna was wearing the same shirt when she goes after Doc that she was in the pilot episode. There's a moment in the
Yes.
barn where Nicole tosses Waverly a shotgun, and it's
Yes.
kind of like the literal similar shot to when she has the shotgun in the apartment above Shorty's in the first
Yes.
episode, when Wynonna comes in. So having all of these callbacks and boops, to the fans, you can just tell how much work was put into this, not even from a writing standpoint, but also from directing, from set decoration. Like they really took into account things that would be impactful to the fandom, things that the fans would remember, things that were important, like having Wynonna in the same shirt and then looking at her journey, it's like, how amazing is that the costume department thought that to do that, like
Yeah.
to say this would be a great way to show how different she's become, even though she's still Wynonna. She's in the same outfit.
Yeah.
Like she's so different. So that was my first moment. A lot to unpack there, but
I just want to throw one last boop in there.
yep.
Not really a boop like a throwback, but I just want to throw in drunk Uncle Nedley because I didn't know where he was going half the time. But yeah, so I just wanted to just drop that in there as well. So I'm gonna go with my moment, my first moment, which was just like the bridal party slash the wedding scene, because really the whole episode kind of revolved around the wedding. First things first, they were able to take a not nice homestead anymore and transform it. So kudos to the set decorators and everybody like that were able to do that. So we had Jeremy officiating, Waverly going to Doc and asking him to be her best man, um, because she said that she tells him that she sees him trying to be better every day, and she wanted him to be her best man because she sees him becoming a better man. And then Nicole has Wynonna as her maid of honor because they're best friends, no takebacks. And then I found it really funny how Wynonna became like the bridezilla of the day, and Nicole and Waverly were like super chill, like really the whole day. Um, Even when there was destruction on the homestead, they were still like calm about it. They just took it in stride. I mean, Nicole even said that um the wedding won't go off like without a hitch, like because it's an Earp wedding, it's an Earp event, it's not going to be perfect on the homestead. And then there was a funny moment where Wynonna's like examining the cake and she has these two little mini magnifying glasses. She's like, I think that's buttercream. Waverly can't eat her own cake because it's buttercream and that's not vegan and blah 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 blah. And she's going like crazy about it. Um,
But
so I found
Waverly
that,
is so blasé about it, and she's like, "Oh, I've got vegan cupcakes in the freezer.
yeah,
It's
just
fine."
in case. Yeah. Yeah. Again, they were super cool about it. They were just like, you know what? If it happens, it happens, whatever. And then we get to the toast. And Wynonna's toast goes like this. I had to write it down. She says, Nicole Rayleigh Hot. There's no way that that's your middle name. So then Wynonna continues and she's like, my ginger bitch, best friend. I'm so glad you finally found someone worthy of you. Now, I found this very interesting because she was directing that towards Nicole, but she's Waverly's sister. So
Mhm.
she's basically like, she didn't say to Waverly, Nicole, like, you're worthy of, like, she was directing this towards Nicole. And I found that like to be very poignant. I don't know. I just had this sense of like, oh, that's really sweet that like she knows her sister's awesome. Like throughout the whole show, like Wynona's always been like hyping Waverly up for whatever. But now it was her turn to say to Nicole that now Waverly is worthy of you.
And I really love that actually, because if you think back to the Goo Nona and the Gooverly scenarios where there's a moment in the sheriff's department where Nicole asks Wynonna, and this is before they were really friends. She's like, is Waverly acting weird to you? And Nicole is like telling her what's been weird. And Wynonna says, you're not my sister's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
She's really rude to her, you know?
Yeah.
And so to see the 180, to see Wynonna now give a speech about Nicole and say she's glad that she found someone worthy.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't a speech that's like, oh, I'm so glad you're here for my sister. Or I'm so glad you're making my sister happy. It's like, I'm so glad you found this. Like she genuinely is happy for Nicole.
Yeah, exactly what you said. The moment it was just there. And I just loved, I mean, they got there happily ever after. That's all we could ask for. The vows, they mentioned the bulletproof vest in the vows. I would have preferred if they mentioned also the broken taps or like a cappuccino. See that? That's something that I would have liked, but I see where they were going with that. And then you know, the montage itself, again, it was pretty near perfect to just see all of those things.
I mean, their outfits, everyone's outfits at the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything about it. I think back to all the times, the many, many times that Kat and Dom were asked at cons, like, what would a way hot wedding look like? Because that's the number one question everybody always asks. They would always say literally what we saw, like springtime, our closest friends and family.
Small, intimate, yeah.
Literally, that's what it was. And
yeah.
It was amazing.
I mean, that's the ultimate boop, I guess.
Yeah, it was amazing as a fan to finally see that play out.
This is an aside, guys. So my sister started watching the show. If you follow me, you know I was posting some of her reactions and everything like that. She told Kat Burrell to her face that she did not believe Way Hot was going to be Endgame. I know. It's a shock. Kat was not happy about it, let me tell you guys.
Kat was more probably like, who in their right mind believes that Way Hot's not Endgame?
Kat actually told me, Laura, keep that shit to yourself. And I was like, trust me, Kat, I'm not going to reveal it at all. However, because my sister's whole argument was that they kept getting engaged and it didn't, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It didn't
follow through.
Yeah, it didn't like result in a wedding. They kept getting engaged. So they were engaged, like they got engaged like 6 times and it didn't result in a wedding. So that was my sister's whole thing. And, you know, she had a theory that Nicole was evil the whole time anyway, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I received a phone call from my sister on Saturday morning. And the first things out of her mouth was she was wrong and that she was happy to say that Way Hot was Endgame. So congratulations. You know,
round of applause for your sister with that character development within herself.
Yes. And
Thank you for coming to your senses.
Yes. And we were able to prove her wrong because I kept saying, I was like, nope, you don't understand. Way Hot is going to be Endgame. And she kept fighting me on it. But yep. So Way Hot is Endgame. So that's all I wanted. And she's probably listening now. So
I'm glad she finally came to her senses because I mean, I would hope that after that wedding she wouldn't still have doubts because that was pretty set in stone there.
Exactly. All right, Allison, what's next for you?
One moment that I'll add, which is on my list that has to do with the wedding, is when Nedley comes into the house to give Nicole her little flower to pin to her shirt, and she's nervous, which I thought was adorable. For her to be nervous, because I was thinking like, woman, how can you be nervous? Like, it's not like she's gonna like walk away at this point. Like, Waverly's literally attached to your hip. You are the angel's shield. You are literally her shield. You cannot go anywhere. Which I found hilarious. But I love, love, love so much, and I can't say it enough, that Nicole asked Nedley to walk her down the aisle. I think that it is the most wonderful development of their relationship throughout this show, because Nedley saved her when she was young from the cult of Bolshar. He has been there. He's the one that recruited her to Purgatory. He has been there even when she didn't know. He has been there in her life through every moment, watching after her, making sure she's okay. And so it's like the callback to episode 307 when she says, "Everything I have in my life is because I came back to the Ghost River Triangle," talking about Nedley giving her the sheriff's position, and they had that really sentimental moment. It's just like, there is no one else that Nicole could ever have to walk her down the aisle other than Nedley.
Yeah. I mean, I know there was always talk about, oh, would we ever see Nicole's family? Or, I mean, there was a little mention of them at the end of season 2 when she was in the hospital. But yeah, it was always going to be Nedley. It always had to be Nedley. You know, he is her father figure. He's her mentor. And she actually said, it would be, I don't know the beginning, but she said, walk beside me like you've been doing for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a great sentiment for her. And it was such a short, you know, scene, but it was powerful, and just like the way they played it. It was just really great. I loved it.
Yeah, I think so too.
So my next moment is move over research Waverly. Now we got research way hot. So after the destruction of the homestead, Waverly and Nicole head into the barn, and they see that it's all destroyed, and they realize immediately and in sync that the dress was cursed. And then they start researching like why the dress was cursed, who cursed it, et cetera, et cetera.
Did Waverly not know she bought the dress from someone named Kersey?
I found it very funny. I don't know if this was just a coincidence or if this was done purposely, but if we throw back again to 109, and when Nicole is coming out of the police station and runs into Waverly, and they have that conversation where Nicole is talking about one thing and Waverly is talking about another thing, they're completely not on the same page. And then they further have the conversation in the cruiser later on that episode where they're like, well, maybe we should figure out what we're talking about. In this episode, they're like cursed dress, like together. They're like, they constantly
mind meld.
Yeah, they're constantly like just on the same page, and they solve this together and they figure out what's going on. And just a little, you know, whatever. We're so used to seeing jealous Waverly. There was a little bit where they discovered that the dressmaker was left at the altar, and which is the reason why she cursed the dress and whomever wears it. And we got a little bit of jealous Nicole where she said, baby, if you ever left me at the altar, I would fuck shit up. Maybe even kill Nedley. Waverly was like, Nicole. And Nicole was like,
she said, I'm kidding. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Maybe. I don't know. And I'm just going to say that led to some pre-wedding sexy times from Way Hot. But I also like, that's another nod where Jeremy walks in and he's like, for the last time, nobody wants to see this, because that's actually Emily's running joke. Every time there is a Way Hot scene, she always like tweets about it. She's like, sorry, you guys had to see that, you know, whatever. So I really liked that as well. So yeah, that was a moment for me, because now they're like, and I saw somebody tweet out, they're like the Way Hot detective agency now or something along those lines, which, hey,
that'd be fun.
Listen, the sheriff's office, as far as we know, only Nicole works there.
Yeah.
So Waverly could be a special deputy.
Well, Jeremy is now the deputy director of the Black Badge Division.
That's true.
So he can appoint whoever he wants.
That is true.
Maybe he appoints Waverly to be the deputy director or the assistant to the deputy director. Okay. So I have a couple of moments to choose from, so I'm trying to decide which one to go to. All right, so I'm going to talk about a moment between Doc and Wynonna. And the moment I want to talk about specifically, because I know there's a lot going on with them in this episode, which I know Laura's going to talk about. So I just want to talk about a specific moment where Doc and Wynonna decide to go see Alice. And here's why I want to mention this specific moment, because I love Doc and Wynonna. So, of course, I want to mention everything, but I'm going to stick to this specific one because my mom watches the show with me. She watches it the next morning because she cannot stay up as late as the show comes on. So she has to watch it the next day. However, after my 1 or 2 seasons of like never shutting up about this show, and after literally starting a convention and traveling all around the world, she's like, okay, maybe I should watch this to finally figure out what it is you're talking about all the time. So I got her to watch it, and we were discussing the finale recently, and she had asked me if this was the end. And I was like, well, Mom, I'm not sure. You know, there's a lot going on. It could be the end. What are your thoughts? Would you be okay if it's the end? And she said, well, here's the thing. The funny thing to me is also that like she got really into this show as much as I got into this show. So she has like full hopes and wishes, you know, for this show. And she said, I will, and she said this exact thing, which I thought was hilarious. She said, I will not be happy if the show ends and they do not mention Alice.
Mm.
And coming from a mother, I fully recognize that as a mother thing to choose as your non-negotiable for the finale, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which I get. I felt very much the same way. Like I wanted them to mention Alice. I wasn't so much as particular about how it needed to happen, but my mom said, I will not be happy if we don't find out what happens about Alice, because they cannot end the show with Alice out there in the middle of Miracles, Montana. And they don't go get her. So after she watched the episode on Saturday, she came busted into the room that I was in, and she was like, I watched it. And I was like, what'd you think? She said, they mentioned Alice. And I was like, I know. And she was so excited about it because that was her non-negotiable for the end. Like it was like, mention Alice or not, or nothing, Emily Andress. Like if you don't do this. So I wanted to mention that moment because it was really special for my mom, really special for me, that Doc and Wynonna finally got to go get her because they're leaving purgatory behind. They're leaving the demons. Wynonna's not responsible for them right now. She has the ability to just go see her daughter. And I really loved that she says, do you think we have time for a pit stop in Miracles, Montana? And, you know, Doc's like, well, what's in Montana? And she doesn't respond. Right. She just sits there, and Doc gets it. He looks up and he says, do you think she'll recognize us? To which Wynonna replies, yeah, I'd take that bet. And it's just like the one thing I think that has held them together throughout all of this is the fact that they share a daughter together. You know, there's a lot of things like, yes, they love each other. There's a lot of background and history between them. But I think the fact that they share this daughter who they had to give up, which was trauma for both of them that they've been holding, the fact that they had to let her go. I mean, you can see that radiate through every scene, you know, where Wynonna feels like that's the worst thing she had to do was to let Alice go. And, you know, every time Doc would do something bad, Wynonna would always say, well, what about Alice? You know, it was kind of this unspoken thing between them for all this time. And so for them to finally get to go see her was probably just the icing on the cake to their happy ending, because it doesn't feel like a happy ending, you know, if they aren't able to get that. And at this point, I'm not sure how old Alice is because a lot of time has passed. They were in the garden for 18 months, you know. Yeah. So I don't know specifically how old Alice is. I'm going to guess she's a toddler, somewhere around 2 or 3, 3.5. I don't know.
I would say maybe 4 or 5.
I don't know if she's that old. I think that a lot of it is we made it up. She's probably still a toddler. because, time is only a construct that the writers decide. So she's
Yeah.
probably still a toddler. But the fact that they said, do you think she'll recognize us, leads me to believe that Gus has been showing Alice pictures, of them throughout her life, so that so she would recognize them when they eventually showed up.
That part really struck me, that like she seems to know where Alice is. She was keeping tabs with her, even with all of the stuff that was going on, with her, the drinking and the killing demons and killing some humans and having to deal with everything. She still kept Alice in at her forefront.
I think that's such a mother thing to do, which really shows like Wynonna was going through a lot, and she was drinking a lot and never sleeping, but she never stopped being a mother.
Yeah.
Like she obviously always had this in the back of her mind and was clearly keeping tabs, like you said. Even when she was going through it, like really going through it, there was always Alice, in the back of her mind that probably kept her going, and and probably just gave her an end goal, I guess, to finally say like, and this was her end goal. It was her moment. She finally gets to go see Alice. And I selfishly wish we could see that moment.
Yeah.
Because I want to see Melanie Scrofano's face when she like acts out like Wynonna finally seeing Alice. I want that moment. So because
you want to get like kicked in the heart.
I want to get kicked in the heart because like I won't get too far into it, but I have a nephew who is very close to me, who I like to consider my own child. Yeah. And I would literally die for him. And I'm going to cry. I will not cry. So to see Wynonna, who has, it broke her to give that child up.
Yes.
So to finally get to see her again after all this time, after all Wynonna has sacrificed, she has put her life on the line. She has sacrificed everything. And it was, yes, to protect Waverly, but for Alice, because the whole reason they sent her away was because it wasn't safe in purgatory.
And also, you were saying it's like it was her hardest thing because she didn't think she was worthy to be Alice's mother at the time, but really, that's what really hit home for her. But she was like this whole time she was, and
exactly.
And all you have to do, no dialogue, probably a stellar song chosen by Andrea Higgins, some kind of montage, and just a close up on Melanie's face.
Yeah, just to see Wynonna
you'll
reunite.
be in the fetal position.
I would cry forever.
You'll be in a corner in the fetal position, rocking back and forth, like, why, Emily? Why?
Yeah. Mostly because I know that Melanie's face would literally kill me, and I'm a sucker for punishment, and sometimes I ask for it, and I'm asking for it, so I don't know what's gonna happen. But like, if I could just get like a behind the scenes featurette webisode, of that moment. Anything will do.
Self-produced on an iPhone.
I need a TikTok.
Well, Jeremy is tracking Doc's phone to see when he posts his first TikTok. So
yeah.
I'm gonna just jump back because that was towards the end, but I'm gonna jump back and actually give my third moment, which was, let's say, it's the supernatural element of the supernatural show.
We're talking about everything but the supernatural. So let's dive in. Let's talk about it.
So this is what you had mentioned before, the appearance of Charlotte Sullivan as the Silk Witch. But I just wanted to Brigitte. Yes. Hogback, which is okay. So we find out what the plot is. So Wynonna sees the dress and somehow she's drawn to it, and she wants to put the dress on, as any kind of slapstick bridal comedy will show. Like, some person that doesn't belong in the wedding dress or whatever puts the dress on and somehow gets stuck in it. So she gets stuck in the dress. Her and Doc go to the store, which is Kersey's Vintage boutique, and it's like, let's just name it on the nose. Why not? So we learn that the dress is cursed, and the person who wears it will kill everyone at their wedding. But starting off, Charlotte Sullivan in this role was like a diamond in the rough, because she's, if you're watching and you know Charlotte Sullivan and you're looking out for her, okay, they walk into the boutique, she's sitting as one of the mannequins.
That freaked me out at first.
She's sitting as one of the mannequins, not moving until Wynonna walks past her and touches her, and she goes boop. Yeah. So right there, that was the first boop. She's telling us that it's a boop. So that's the first thing. Then her voice, okay, she has this, I'm a fan of Schitt's Creek. If you watch Schitt's Creek, you'll know my reference. But she starts talking like Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek. And it's like this flighty kind of voice. And, you know, it's very, I don't know if she was trying to kind of like make it like the 1920s era that she's from or whatever. Either way, it was the actor choice to do, and she crushed that.
And then I just have to say, Emily tweeted this, and it made me love the voice.
I was gonna say this. Okay, no, you could say it. Okay, yeah.
Emily tweeted that those lines were not written as a song.
Yes.
Charlotte Sullivan decided on set to sing a few of those lines, and
the when she was explaining the curse, what the curse was, she's like singing it in like this sing-songy voice, and I was just like dying laughing, because not only was it in the sing-songy voice, but then it was in that kind of like high-pitched voice. Yeah, it was just, oh my god. So
just laugh thinking about it.
So the person who wears the wedding dress, she got confused because she thought Wynonna was the bride, but every time Wynonna mentioned it about, you know, Waverly's wedding, she's like, wait, you're not the bride? And she's like, no. So then obviously we know from my previous moment that Research Way Hot figured out what it was. So you have Waverly running in, and she has the silk banner that says "Where you go, I go," that was hanging at the wedding. She wraps the silk witch in it and does a random incantation, and it finally gets the dress off of Wynonna. Wynonna's thinking was that the dress chose her to put it on, but the silk witch says no, the chooser chooses to wear the dress as long as the chooser is in love. And then to that, Doc goes, really? And then Wynonna says something that she wanted to try it on and pretend that she was normal and that she could love. But what I love about that was that they were divided by this mannequin standing in between them. And when Wynonna says, she's like, oh, I wanted to see what it was like to be in love, she goes to hide behind the mannequin. And then Doc leans on the mannequin and kind of loses its balance. And it was just that whole scene, that whole like story arc or whatever. I just thought it was the perfect way to include that in there.
Yeah, because how can you have an episode that's supposed to be so perfect but still keep the love of the supernatural? Like that was the perfect little side story to keep this going, you know, like it kind of like gave us something supernatural for the show that we love that is supernatural.
Yeah.
But still made the focus not supernatural, you know? Right.
And I love that. Now this might come up later, but Waverly was the one to save the day. And it kind of comes up a little bit later that we'll talk about, where the whole reason why Wynonna doesn't think she could leave is because she has to protect Waverly. But we see now Waverly takes care of herself. She takes care of her own shit. And I just want to end this with a little fun fact for everybody out there. But Charlotte Sullivan's husband is an actor-director by the name of Peter Stebbins. And he actually directed in season 1. He directed episodes 110 and 111 in season 1. So Charlotte Sullivan's kind of already been in the Wynonna Earp orbit for a little bit.
My favorite part of the supernatural story was not that the episode opened with such a horror scene because I was grossed out. What I loved was the moment where Waverly comes running in and she's like got the silk and she's like, oh hi guys, and then Wynonna like covers, she's like, do you think she saw the dress? And I'm like,
Yeah.
of course she saw the dress, like she knows you're in it. Like
Yeah.
the fact that Wynonna was trying to hide it was just hilarious.
Yeah. When Wynonna said that, I don't think Waverly was really all that fussed about it because she said herself, she's like, I didn't even like that dress,
Yeah.
earlier. So I was like, okay. And then subsequently she decides to take the old dress that she wore in the alternate universe episode, Mama's old wedding dress, with a few Waverly modifications, and wear that for the lovely day.
Great tribute to Mama Earp. She's
Yes.
banging her way through Turkey, so
yes,
she couldn't be there. What a
I mean,
way
I'm
to
sure
go, Mama.
I'm sure they FaceTimed her at the reception.
Yeah, I just think it's hilarious. Okay, well, my next moment, I want to talk about the Earp sisters. Because we love the Earp sisters, we have to mention this moment because the Earp sisters are the true heart of this show. And I think they always have been. The show started with kind of them together. And so I think that it was important to show kind of their progression, I guess, throughout the season and the series rather, because Wynonna has always protected Waverly and she's always thought that it was her job to stay there, protect Waverly. And so when Doc leaves, Wynonna lets him go because she thinks that she even tells Doc, I can't leave her, And so my moment is when Waverly drags Wynonna into the barn and starts packing her clothes for her, and she's like, Wynonna, do you want to go? And Wynonna says, I want to protect you. And Waverly tells her, it's not your place anymore. You need to stop thinking that you're the only one that can handle this place anymore because Nicole is the angel's shield and the sheriff. Like, they're fine. They're going to do things different. They're going to take care of it. Waverly tells her she needs to stop punishing herself. If she loves Doc, she should go, which I love the moment when Wynonna finally realizes that she does love Doc. And then there's this whole speech about how the cowboy became a cowman for Wynonna, which I love. Cowman. Yeah. I just love that. Yeah. And this is the part that I want to be my moment because this line, my biggest fear used to be that you'd never come back, that you'd never get to know the real me. But now I know you do, and you always will, Wynonna, because this is your home. It says so on the mailbox. And I just love that. And you can tell from season 1 when Wynonna goes off and Waverly's even like, oh yeah, be a coward because all you ever do is leave. Mm-hmm. But now Wynonna's biggest thing is not leaving.
Yeah. She wants to stay.
But Waverly is able to handle it on her own now. She doesn't need Wynonna's protection. And then they have this moment where they're hugging and they're crying and Wynonna says, you're my whole heart, Waverly. And Waverly's like, we have cell phones, ding dong. And that was honestly like a little bit of a nod to me because I was getting emotional, because this felt very final. But then I'm like, oh yeah, I can still talk to people. I have Twitter. I have cell phone. Like, this is not the end. Like, this is not, it's not over. But that moment between them was just great.
I definitely had that moment on my list as well. So
until I made you cut down from 16.
Yeah. But I actually had exactly what you said. Stop punishing yourself. The cowboy changed to a cow man. I also had, how do you have 72 bras and only one pair of panties? But that's an aside.
That seems like a pretty common Wynonna thing, if you ask me. Like,
so just to take it back a little bit earlier. So Wynonna has just let Doc leave. And she's sitting on the porch steps and the group is gathered around and Jeremy's like, you turned down Doc Holliday. Was it because he wasn't wearing his hat? I don't understand. And then Nicole chimes in and she's like, sure, he's done bad stuff, but so have you. And then Rachel throws Nicole under the bus and is like, you've done bad stuff to Doc too. And she's like, yeah, but I don't have to sleep with him. And they're like,
and Rachel, I was going to say, and Rachel and Jeremy at the same time say, have to?
Yeah. And it was just like, so then Wynonna's like, listen, I can't leave the Ghost River Triangle. I'm the only one that could wield Peacemaker. And she's like, and then fuming Waverly, mad Waverly, comes out of the house and she's like, the fuck you can't, grabs Wynonna's ear, then does like a round robin to all of them standing around. And she's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. Not you, sweetie pie. And I'm like, Billy's standing there, not for anything, but like he just got there. Like, what did he do wrong that he needed to get a Waverly fuck you? But that was a great moment. And I love that, like, we've always known Waverly has this fire in her belly that like comes out at the best times. And like you said, the Earp sisters are the backbone of the show. And we couldn't have a moment without them.
I think that because they are the backbone of the show, it was very significant for Wynonna to get permission. Not that she needs permission. She's a grown woman. She can do what she wants. But Wynonna felt like she needed permission from Waverly to leave. And I think that because she got that, she was able to like be at peace with leaving Waverly behind.
So I'm going to combine two of my moments now as my next moment. Because we've talked about this already, which is Doc leaving. And he and Wynonna, they have 3 moments of like him telling her that he's gonna leave and when he does leave. So she finds a letter that he wrote to her, but he wasn't gonna leave a letter. He was just trying to like write out his words. So that's what he says. And she finds the letter and she reads it and she calls him a coward for leaving. And he says a coward would stay instead of admitting it was high time to let go of the past and get to living. And then he says to her that Wynonna is the truest hero he ever fought alongside of, but in love, she is the coward. And then there's another moment. This was after the wedding. So that was before the wedding. That was when they were still trying to figure out how to defeat the Silk Witch. Now, after the wedding, Doc takes off, which stay for the reception, like stay for the cleanup kind of thing. Like, why do you have to leave in the middle of it?
I was like, now?
Like, why are you leaving? Why are you making this about you, Doc? And I also don't kind of understand where exactly his trailer is, because he had to drive there, but then like Wynonna walked up to where he was. Anyway, she walks up to him still in her dress,
delicate and dainty and blue, I should say.
Yes. And he is packing up Charlene to ride off into the sunset. And he says that, and I'm going to try to do this in my best Doc Holliday impression, but he says, see, life is short, but it is long and it is lonely. So if you manage to find a group of souls that will tolerate you and elevate you, and one who will especially love you, well, that is all it's about. That is what the fight is really for. And Wynonna apologizes for hurting him, and he says, we only hurt ourselves. And then right before he takes off, he says, and I wouldn't change a note. And that was a drop kick to the heart right there. But then subsequently, let's move on to when they, so after the barn scene that we talked about just before, I have written down here what I like to call the escape route chaos. So Wynonna decides to go after Doc now. He took off. She's decided to go after him. The truck, rest in peace, gives one final, like, not gonna do it, and just completely dies on her. But she sees the motorcycle, Shorty's motorcycle that he left her, and she's ready to go. She's ready to find him on the back roads. Right before she leaves, Nicole throws her leather jacket on her, and she's like, Nicole, it's like 85 degrees outside, which kudos to the Canadian people out there, to the Canadian writers and everything who decided to say 85 degrees instead of whatever it is in Celsius, because Canadians use the metric system.
Right.
But Nicole says, fashion first, bitch. And so she gets it. And let me just say, coming from Nicole, or rather cat who they put in a velvet suit on that hot summer day is saying something that, like, she's complaining. She's wearing a friggin' halter top. The leather jacket on a motorcycle is not gonna, like, make her sweat. A velvet suit, on the other hand, probably, but that's not what this is about. Anyway, so she's on the road and she catches up to him and she shoots out Charlene's tires, and he stops on one side of the sign and she stops on the other side of the sign, because obviously they have to have that, walk toward each other. And right then and there, Wynonna admits that she loves him. Now, this didn't catch my eye or my ears at first, but it's something that my sister brought up to me because, now she loves the show. So she related this moment to the movie 10 Things I Hate About You. And at the end of that movie, the character says the 10 things she hates about the other character that she supposedly fell in love with throughout the movie. And this is actually Wynonna's, like, 10 things I love about you list. And she says, I love you, Doc. I love you in that bottom of the deep, dark well way. Your face, your butt, and your drawl, and your heart. And I love the way you love my sister. And I love the way you love me. Drop kick to the heart number 2. So then they decide that they're going to go off together. They're going to leave together and, see where the road takes them. And as you mentioned, one of those places was to go and visit Alice in Miracles, Montana, where they find,
I loved every moment that they had, because after 411, they're in the bar together. He realizes he's human. Wynonna is kind of like, they've kind of found their place. Like, they've forgiven, they've kind of mended the road. And so to hear that Doc is leaving was quite a shock to Wynonna, because she's thinking they had just repaired everything that had happened. I did not hate seeing Doc shirtless.
No.
I'm sure that
ogling.
I'm sure that they just had to write that last one in there. Also, it felt weird to see Doc diving into the little lake when they were looking for the silkworms, because, like, this show is always filmed in winter, so I'm like, sometimes I still forget that it's summer. Mm-hmm. And so to see him dive into the water when she's, like, finding the note, I was like, oh, summer, right? He's not going to get frostbite. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
But I love the relationship that they kind of created, and for them to get a happy ending, honestly, was surprising. Which I don't know if everyone thinks that, because, like, they've always been bad for each other. Like, yeah. I mean, there was never a time when they were together and it was, like, happy. Something always went wrong. Yeah. So for them to finally find a way to give them that happy ending was a surprise to me. I mean, honestly, kudos to the writers, because I just didn't think it was possible. And honestly, even Tim told us on the podcast, he said, if you're in a relationship like Wynonna and Doc, then get out.
Get out, yeah.
He said that. So it's like, I was honestly surprised that they were able to find that happy ending. And I honestly think it was a happy ending, because they both changed for each other. Wynonna left Waverly, left Purgatory for Doc. Doc is a changed man. He's not a vampire. He's a cowman. He's human now. He's not going to live forever. So now he has a chance to live knowing that there's an end. Yeah. So, there finally was a way for them to have that happy ending, and to see that journey throughout this episode where they were fighting because he was leaving, he was going to leave and she was going to let him. And then they had to convince her to go after him. And then to see that moment where they kind of walk up to each other in the middle of the sign was like, gosh, how long have we waited? Like,
there's two other points that I wanted to make. One was when he's walking away from the wedding, she comes out of the house and she's standing on the steps on the porch, and he gives her a little nod. And I kind of related that back to 403 after they get the barnacle Nedley cleaned up, and they just catch eyes, and he gives her a little nod and he walks away because he's still, I guess, upset about what she had done, etc. So there was that moment, so I likened it to that. And then the other thing is that I don't see it as a happy ending. I see it as a happy beginning, where
that's a good way to describe it, because it's not, they have a road ahead of them.
Yeah, they're on their own journey together. And she, like you said, she left Waverly, and for all intents and purposes, Waverly is her greatest love. And she left Waverly to be with Doc, to go with Alice. Because, and I think it really goes back to 408, when they're sitting by the campfire, and Waverly's like, Nicole is my person. And I think it took Wynonna, a few more weeks to realize that, Doc is her person.
Like, they can still have sisterly love and be each other's sister, but still have someone else to lean on. Yes, Wynonna, we know you love Waverly with your whole heart, but you are also allowed to love someone else.
Yes, exactly.
To see Wynonna finally realize that, was a punch to my heart.
Yes.
It's like, gosh, Wynonna, the pain and the trauma that you have been through these last 4 seasons, for you to finally get it, that you are allowed happiness.
All right. What is your last one?
Well, I thought really long and hard about this, because I knew that we were going to talk about essentially every single part of this episode, because how could you not?
Yeah.
So my last moment is literally just the ending scene with the mailbox and the signs that say, "And hot, sometimes holiday, everyone welcome."
Yes.
And I was already in tears streaming down as I watched the ending go on. But as this camera pans up and you see each sign one at a time, it just really hit me, because I don't think that top sign specifically was just for purgatory. Like, this show has always been a place where, me personally, I feel like I can go without any judgment. I mean, growing up, I've had plenty of friends who either A, stopped being my friend for whatever reason, B, said, "Oh, that's a weird thing to like. That's a weird thing to be into." Or, "Oh, you like that TV show? Like, that's weird. That's cool. That's not cool. That's not the popular thing everybody's watching." And I have never felt like I completely had a group of friends who just got me. Like, I've had tons of friends who were great, friends in high school, friends in college, and whatnot. But there has always been, I'm not like a crazy person, but like, I like to be silly. I like to be nerdy. I literally dress up as a tree, you guys. Like, this is not news, okay? Like,
yeah,
I am a murder tree. Spoiler alert. Like, that is a thing that I find hilarious and I love to do. Like, when we were in Seattle, we wore our tree costumes around the streets of Seattle for no reason at all. Like, that is just something that I think is hilarious and I love to do because it's silly and nerdy. And people in my life have never understood that about me.
Yeah.
Like, I've never had people who get me for that part and like understand. Like, I'd always felt, okay, this is so hard to articulate, but it's like, I've never felt like I could just do whatever without having someone say something else. Like, I've always felt like I've held back, being my true weird self or silly self because people didn't want it.
Yeah.
But when I found Wynonna, and when I found my friends and the group that I mostly relate to with Wynonna, aka hello murder trees, love you guys. It's like I never again felt like I was having to hold back.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same. I started watching this show episode 2. Well, I episode 3 live, because it was episode because I saw something from episode 102. I wonder what if that could have been that that caught my attention. Um, and so from then on, so that's 2016 that I started watching this show. I didn't make myself known really on Twitter until possibly like even later than that. I didn't open myself up to really the fandom until like 2017, something like that. I went to Palooza in 2018, which was the first time I was like, I'm going to put myself out there. I went by myself. I found a group of cool people to like hang out with and stuff like that weekend. So anybody that's listening and is like, oh, I'm gonna go to a con alone, I don't know if I want to go, do it. Believe me, like I did it. I have a group of friends. Then 2019, we had the fight for Wynonna, and I still wasn't like, really nobody in my personal life knew about my love for this show. But I now had a few friends that I met at Palooza. Then, 2019, when we had the fight, the same thing. Like I became a part of the billboard crew that we would go and photograph the billboards. And like some of those people are like amazing people. And I would never have found them right in my own backyard. Like the other people that I met and got to know at Palooza, like they were all over the country, around the world. These people were in my own backyard. We get together now. We get together for birthdays. Well, before the pandemic anyway, or like just hanging out, even after the fight was over, we would get together. We would try to get together once a month. I see them more than I see my regular friends, because my regular friends, they're married, they have kids, they're busy with their own lives.
And that's why this sign's impacted me so much, because not only is the Earp homestead now becoming a place for everyone, because even Waverly said, we're going to find a way for the demons and everyone to live together. And I have no doubt that Waverly's the one that put that sign up there. But that sign to me was more of this show.
The ultimate boop.
It's literally the ultimate boop, because this show, while it's not for everyone, not everyone is into sci-fi, right? Not everyone could love the low budget Canadian show the way we do. However, it's literally there for anyone. It might not be for everyone.
Yep.
But it's there for anyone.
Yes.
The everyone welcome sign was just like a punch, because it's like, I've never felt more at home when I am talking about this show, watching this show with the people I met through this show. And this show has literally changed my life. I mean, like, I don't know that there's any other way to put it, because I freaking started a convention. Like, I mean, I have friends that I never would have known had I not watched this show.
Yeah.
Like, have changed my life in the fact that, it's because the show is so opening and so welcome that, like, you just can't not love it. Like, well, you find something in it that you love, Yeah.
Well, it's like what Emily says. She's like, there's no hierarchy to being an Earper. If you watch the show, you're an Earper. That's it. Plain and simple. And that's where it is. I just wanted to elaborate on that, where just elaborate on the scene that took place with Waverly and Nicole. And Waverly was worried because, as we know, Nicole was like a traveler before. And Waverly asks if she's disappointed that, they're stuck in the Ghost River Triangle instead of them going on the adventure and having like a chic romantic honeymoon. And Nicole just says, she's like, no, she's like, hard pass. I'm right where I want to be, home with my wife. And Waverly just ends the show. Home. That's it. It's that simple. Home
and I
is,
think that's what everybody feels.
Yeah. Home is where you are. Home is a place, home is a person, home is a feeling. It's just home. So with that, I guess that's our top
I
5.
can't say anymore. I'm just gonna bust in tears. I
Yeah.
don't want to cry on the podcast.
We're not gonna narrow this one down to just like a final 5. I'm just gonna say that
it's everything. It's everything.
So we hope we're back again at some point with you guys. But in the meantime, let us know which moment resonated with you. Leave us a comment. Allison, where can they find us?
Yep. You can find us at Earp Top 5 on Twitter, and please just like message us, tell us your favorite moments, because we love hearing if our favorite moments were also someone else's. Like Laura and I often have very different moments, which works for this podcast because we're able to talk about everything. But I love when I can be like, oh my gosh, that was your favorite moment too. That's so cool. That was my favorite moment.
Or even something that maybe we didn't mention, because that's even something like if we see somebody be like, yeah, but this moment, be like, oh yeah, right. That moment.
Yeah. We just want to know what you guys think.
Yeah. You can find me at Laura Meet World on Twitter.
And you can find me at Nona Way Hot, and definitely come chat us up and talk to us. Cause like we said, this is literally our family. Like you guys, this fandom is like nothing I've ever experienced. And if we can't have each other, then what do we have at all,
Yeah. Well, with that, have a great day, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Listening.
Thanks for listening.